Esther 1. In the days of King Ahasuerus, who ruled from India to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, he sat on the throne in Shushan, the palace. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a great feast for his princes and servants. The power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces, were gathered before him. For 180 days he displayed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his majesty. When those days ended, the king made another feast, lasting 7 days, for all the people in Shushan, both great and small. The palace court was decorated with white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with fine linen and purple cords. Silver rings and marble pillars surrounded them, and couches of gold and silver rested on beautiful marble pavement. Royal wine flowed freely in golden vessels of many kinds. No one was forced to drink, for the king commanded that each person could drink as they wished. Queen Vashti also held a feast for the women in the royal palace. On the 7th day, when the king's heart was merry with wine, he commanded his chamberlains to bring Queen Vashti before him, wearing her royal crown so he could display her beauty to the people and princes. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command. The king became furious, and his anger burned within him. He consulted the wise men, who understood the laws and customs. Memucan spoke before the king. Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but all the princes and people. When women hear this, they will despise their husbands. Therefore, let a royal decree be written, Vashti shall come no more before King Ahasuerus, and her royal position shall be given to another, better than she. The king agreed. Letters were sent to every province in every language, declaring that every man should rule in his own house. Esther 2. After these things, when the king's anger had cooled, he remembered Vashti. The king's servants suggested, let beautiful young virgins be gathered for the king. The one who pleases the king shall become queen instead of Vashti. This pleased the king. In Shushan there was a Jew named Mordecai, a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin. He had raised his cousin Hadassah, also called Esther, because she had no father or mother. Esther was beautiful and lovely. When the king's order was proclaimed, many maidens were gathered to the palace. Esther was also taken into the king's house. She pleased Haggai, the keeper of the women, and received special favor. Esther did not reveal her people or family because Mordecai had instructed her not to. For 12 months, the women were prepared, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes. Then each woman would go in to the king. When Esther's turn came, she requested only what Haggai advised, and Esther obtained favor in the eyes of all who saw her. The king loved Esther more than all the women. He placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. The king held a great feast, Esther's feast, and gave gifts throughout the provinces. Later, Mordecai discovered a plot by 2 chamberlains to assassinate the king. He told Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. The conspirators were investigated and executed. The matter was recorded in the Royal Chronicles. Esther 3. After these events, the king promoted Haman, the Agagite. All the king's servants bowed before Haman, but Mordecai refused to bow. When Haman saw this, he was filled with rage. Learning that Mordecai was a Jew, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews in the empire. In the 12th year of the king, they cast lots, called Pur, to choose the day for the destruction. Haman said to the king, "There is a people scattered throughout your kingdom. Their laws differ from others. It is not good for the king to tolerate them. Let it be written that they be destroyed." The king gave Haman his signet ring. Letters were sent through all the provinces, ordering that on one day all Jews be killed, young and old, women and children, and their possessions taken. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was thrown into confusion. Esther 4. When Mordecai learned everything, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes. He cried loudly in the city, throughout the provinces. The Jews mourned, fasted, wept, and lamented. Esther heard about Mordecai and was deeply distressed. Through a messenger, Mordecai explained the decree. He urged Esther to go to the king and plead for her people. But Esther replied, "Anyone who approaches the king without being summoned is put to death unless the king extends the golden scepter. And I have not been called to the king for 30 days. Mordecai answered, "Do not think you will escape in the king's palace. If you remain silent now, deliverance will arise from another place. But who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther replied, "Gather the Jews in Shushan. Fast for me 3 days and nights. I and my maidens will fast also. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Esther 5. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court. When the king saw her, she found favor in his sight. He extended the golden scepter. "Queen Esther, what is your request? Even half the kingdom shall be given to you." Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet she prepared. At the banquet, the king asked again for her request. Esther said, "Come again tomorrow to another banquet, and I will tell you." Haman left joyful, but when he saw Mordecai, who still refused to bow, he was filled with anger. At home he bragged about his riches and honor, yet he said, "All this means nothing while Mordecai sits at the gate." His wife Zeresh suggested, "Build a gallows 50 cubits high and ask the king to hang Mordecai." Haman liked the idea and had the gallows built. Esther 6. That night the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal chronicles to be read. They found the record of Mordecai saving the king's life. The king asked, "What honor was given to Mordecai?" "Nothing," they replied. Just then Haman entered the court to request Mordecai's execution. The king asked him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Haman thought the king meant him, so he said, "Dress him in royal robes, place him on the king's horse, and lead him through the city, proclaiming his honor." The king replied, "Excellent, do this for Mordecai the Jew." Haman was forced to honor Mordecai through the streets of the city. Afterward he went home in shame. His advisers warned him, "If Mordecai is a Jew, you will surely fall before him." Esther 7. At the banquet, the king again asked Esther, "What is your request?" Esther replied, "Grant me my life and spare my people. We have been sold to be destroyed." The king demanded, "Who would dare do this?" Esther answered, The adversary is this wicked Haman." Haman was terrified. The king left in anger. When he returned, Haman was pleading with Esther. The king thought he was assaulting the queen. Harbonah spoke. Haman built gallows for Mordecai. The king ordered, "Hang him on it." So Haman was executed on the gallows. He prepared for Mordecai. Esther 8. The king gave Haman's estate to Queen Esther. Mordecai was brought before the king. The king gave him the royal signet ring. Esther begged the king to stop Haman's decree, but Persian law could not be revoked, so the king allowed Mordecai to write a new decree. Letters were sent through all 127 provinces, allowing the Jews to defend themselves. Mordecai left the palace wearing royal robes. The city of Shushan rejoiced. For the Jews there was light, joy, and honor. Esther 9. On the appointed day, the Jews gathered to defend themselves. Their enemies could not stand against them. Mordecai had become powerful. Throughout the kingdom, the Jews struck their enemies and gained victory. In Shushan, 500 enemies were slain, including the 10 sons of Haman. Across the provinces, their enemies were defeated. The Jews celebrated their deliverance with feasting and gladness. Thus, the days of Purim were established to remember how sorrow was turned to joy and mourning into celebration.